Just bring your video today, talk about the current market conditions when it comes to botting, how bad it is, how we got here, how did we get here, where were we, and where do we go from here. So just as a precursor, botting was something that I got into around 2017, and in that time it was somewhat of a niche community where you kind of just had to know that it existed in order to get into it, so to speak. Back then it was like super niche, super quiet. You kind of had to know somebody to get into it. So back then for foot sites, when I say foot sites, I mean Foot Locker, Foot Action, East Bay, and Champ Sports. Soul Slayer was king, right? So you buy a copy for like 350 bucks or some proxies, and you'd be the cook god for whatever drop you wanted. The more instances, the more pairs you would cook. So this is right around the time Yeezy started dropping, and at that time when Yeezy collaborated with Adidas, it was the first run of sneakers, and runs were still limited, and it was still hard to access those sneakers. Fast forward till the pandemic, right? 2019, we hear whispers of the pandemic. 2020 came around, and everything is just crazy, right? Crypto's booming, resale is booming, everyone is into it. PS5s were introduced into the market, graphics cards were selling for insane amounts of prices because Ethereum was peaking, Ethereum was going up, everybody was mining it, everybody was trying to source graphics cards to mine crypto, and you could pay a premium, aka resale prices for these components, and still make a killing mining cryptocurrency, aka Ethereum at the time. So that's where we were, right? Now the current state is that it's really hard to just resell anything, even if you wanted to, right? Whether it be sneakers, graphics cards, consoles, limited edition collectibles, things of that sort. Um, I want to take some blame to just like the clout chasers, I guess. That's the best way that I would put it. It's like you had a bunch of 17-year-old devs who were putting together these insanely high priced bots, whereas just ultimately at the end of the day, it was just a piece of software and charge insane amounts of money to the person who was trying to buy it. Licenses would get back toward to different individuals, while everyone else, you just essentially had to pay for a premium. During the peak, when the no, I paid, I believe, $4,400 for this said bot, and right now you can't even buy it, but it's probably because it just doesn't even do anything anymore. Now the question is, how did that happen, right? So during 2020, 2021, you had all these sites that were just being feasted on, absolutely feasted on by bots. Cybersoul, Prism, Mech, Wrath 2, Mech a little bit on foot sites, right? So like they were just absolutely demolished stock, and then people were just getting greedy, kept having more instances, more tasks, more copies, just to collect as much product as they could. At the same time, Yeezy supply was becoming more and more, how do I say this, attainable to cook, so to speak. So people were going after Yeezy supply, so all these bots started introducing Yeezy supply. So as people were progressing more and more towards Yeezy supply, all the other sites were receiving less and less product from manufacturers such as Nike. And if you've noticed over the past 2 years or so, specifically the past year, a lot of the products that people really want, the limited edition runs, are no longer at the brick and mortar stores that you would go to for an exclusive drop back in the day. Unless it's a high-end collaboration. When I say high-end, I mean like a Nike SB Lobster. And then another factor of that was as well was that after like say Foot Locker, the foot stores were alleviating from releasing their product online. Excuse me, the train's passing by. as these foot stores were receiving less and less stock, well, first and foremost, they made the transition over to like app reservations and not releasing any product online. So that was factor number one. So that was a big hit to a lot of these bots that ultimately relied heavily on these foot sites in order to gain success for themselves and for their users, which also reflected on the price of the bot. That was one factor. And then as time progressed, as we know, recently Kanye West was dropped by Adidas. And then from there, they haven't dropped anything on Yeezy Supply. And Yeezy Supply progressively over the years and months have, even when product was still being released on Yeezy Supply, they made it progressively harder and harder in order for bot users to actually check something out with their bot, whether that be with a text firewall or email firewall with a code, almost like a 2FA just to add something to cart. Um, So there's a lot of different factors that got us to this place. We could touch on Ethereum, right? So back in the day in 2020, 2021, you could buy a graphics card from Best Buy for say, I don't know, like a 3060 Ti was 400 at the time. You could sell it easily for over $1,000. And that was just happening every single week. We talk about PS5s when they first came out, they were reselling for $2,000. And essentially now to this point in 2022, even this past holiday season in 2022, excuse me, we're in 2023, um, you would essentially making chump change with reselling PS5s. And now that we're moving on from this, I guess the best way, or I guess like where does one go from here, right? Like looking at these bot prices, like if you take a look historically, I believe it shows it historical lifetime. I don't think it's actually lifetime, month, week. Essentially, this bot back in the day peaked at like $5,000. This bot, I still have it to this day. It's probably the only bot that I still have. It's a very valid bot, not for what it does, because nothing is releasing online and nothing is selling as a whole, right? Um, the dev is a good guy and a very smart individual. So I guess outlook towards the future. Um, a lot of these people who were reselling sneakers and high demand product are now transitioning into FBA, which essentially is the stuff that you've seen people on TikTok or Twitter or Facebook talk about, like Amazon hosting, like essentially buying product from a retailer, whether it be Nike for $20, buying it in volume, using cashback methods like Rakuten, cashback on your credit card, sending it to a warehouse, which then will be sent to Amazon ultimately to be sold for a profit. It's not something that excites me by any means. Whereas compared to botting, it was like something that you would spend a good amount of time and I guess have instant gratification at when the drop was to come. And I guess now that I'm saying it out loud, it's like, well, that's kind of the same thing with Amazon, right? But it doesn't really get me excited. So that's where we're at. Botting, will it come back? I don't think so. I don't think crypto will come back the way it did in the past. Um, and this is just a weird lull period. I just wanted to make this video. It's on my mind. I want to share it with the world. So, till next time.